Pastor Diane from Norfolk Wesleyan Church.
And I'm Pastor Peggy from Slave Lake Wesleyan Church. Welcome to Warm Hearted Wednesday. Yeah, I love Warm Hearted Wednesday. I'm extremely excited about today's show because it's all about, anxieties and different things that we could be feeling, our emotions. And it's so important to have some input on that and to have somebody who is a professional be able to speak into it. So I'm really excited about today. But before we start, Pastor Diane, I know we didn't cover this last week, but part of mental health is probably, understanding why we actually do this show and understanding why we film it or air it at 12:30 Central Time.
Well, sure it is. When we started this, we were trying to figure out a time, and I was also thinking, why are we doing this? We're doing this because, first of all, we love God, but we love others as well. And I was reminded of the scripture in the Gospel of Mark where the Pharisees asked Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? And he replies in chapter 12, verse 30, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. So we took those numbers, 12:30, and thought, we need to keep God central. So that's why we do this show at 12:30 Central, because of Mark 12:30 telling us to love God with all we have. And we always talk about that on Warm Hearted Wednesday because there's more to the story. He continues and he says the second greatest commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. And our Warm Hearted Wednesday started out about us telling stories of how people loved each other. And it's interesting that today we're going to be talking about just emotional stuff and self-care, and that's loving ourselves, isn't it?
It sure is. And I'm really excited for our guest. I'm extremely grateful. Pastor Kathy is such a good friend of mine. And so tell us a little bit about where you are and what you do and a little bit about your qualifications.
Wow. Okay. My name is Kathy Jeffries. I'm the pastor at the head of Millstream Wesleyan Church in New Brunswick. I know a lot of people have heard about it if they're in the Wesleyan Church, but they're not quite sure where it's at. So we'll just say we're in the middle of almost nowhere. I am surrounded by farmers' fields. It's a beautiful place. My qualifications, like I said, I'm a reverend, so I have a BA. I also have a master's degree in theology, but I've also trained and I have a master's degree in counseling psychology, and I am in a process of becoming a licensed therapist in the province of New Brunswick, and I run my own counseling service.
We are very grateful that you're here. And what we wanted to pick your brain about is, what are some of the things that people might be feeling right now in this stage of COVID and what are some of the emotions that we're going through?
Well, a lot of people are struggling with anxiety. There is that fear. The fear and anxiety reside in the same area in the brain, which is the amygdala. Now, we all can be anxious. That amygdala is designed to get us to tomorrow. So we don't want to shut it off. But when circumstances change, our plans aren't going the way we wanted them to, there is crazy in our world. Our little amygdala starts going, and we get very anxious about things. And we need to, for ourselves, be able to take care of ourselves so that we can just talk ourselves back, dial that amygdala down, give it a nice baseline that's an average. But you know what? All of a sudden life changed for people. They had to stay home. There's this fear of getting sick when you go out. You notice in the grocery store, if somebody gets too close to you, or you'll watch others, they're either, they're they're not patient enough when somebody in front of them, and they're not keeping that 6 feet distance that we're told we need to keep. They just want to move on and do their own agenda. And then others are having this fear, oh, they didn't do that. People are so, well, you know what? Sometimes we need to give grace when we're out. We need to take precautions for ourselves. What are we going to do? But those are a lot of those feelings that people are feeling, is that main anxiety. Now, being cut off, the depression can settle in too. But depression and anxiety tend to be very close to each other. A lot of people suffer with both. So the question is, how are we going to control it? What steps can we take for ourselves that will help us stay at an even keel better?
So, Pastor Kathy, what steps can we take?
Yeah, so we need to take care of ourselves. We need to remember to exercise, have the best diet we can, have a form of mind care. Like the physical and mental bodies, like we talk about them as if they're so separate, but they're really so integrated that we have to take care of both. Our body houses this beautiful little brain here that controls everything from our heart rate, our breathing, to our emotional responses. We need to take care, get a good exercise. And I know when we can't go out, that's difficult. You go on YouTube and you can find walking at home videos. You can find exercise videos that you can turn on and do without having very much room in your little space. And you can get some exercise that is healthy for you. Do the best diet you can do, what's in your means, but try to be very cautious about or conscientious about what you're putting in your mouth. I will tell you, I love sugar. Sugar is it for me, right? But I also try to eat really healthy. Like I'll have sprouts or greens and different things to just keep a balanced diet. It's not that we have to deny ourselves anything. It's about moderation and balance, and remembering that. We need to remember in taking care of our mind, we need to find the positive. A lot of times we run on a negative mindset, and we're talking negative. Oh, you can't do that, and we find that we get low because we're tearing ourselves down. In that statement you said, we need to love ourselves. Stay connected. You need to stay connected to family and friends. Sometimes life was really busy and we could use that excuse. Well, now we have a little bit more time. So call your sister early in the morning and get her up, right?
Do not call your sister early in the morning, Kathy.
Call your sister. It's
Family
fun.
feud.
Actually, it's interesting that you say that though, because I mean, it's not like we're distant emotionally, but generally we don't talk a lot to each other. I mean, if we need something, we're there. We know we can call. But
Yeah.
in regular time, we're not talking to each other all the time. But we've probably talked more since this lockdown, so the last 2 months, than we did probably the last 5 years that I've been here.
Well, that's probably true. I'll call once in a while. You'll call once in a while.
Yeah.
But there's just that sense I needed to check in. Find ways to stay connected. Because in our time of isolation, we can slip through the cracks. A few weeks ago, my son was he was working from home. He lives alone. And I made sure I called him every few days just to make sure he was okay, because he's the social butterfly and he needs contact. Now he has gone back to work at his workplace because he knows he shouldn't be home alone all the time and working from home. But know what you need and be willing to step up. If you have an employer that's saying, I'd like you to work from home, but if you don't have to, if you can't do that, make that connection. Say, hey, this is what I really need for my mental health too. Because yes, we are trying to deal with this COVID-19, but still we need to take care of our mental health.
Just backtrack a little bit. You had mentioned the self-care and the like thinking positively about things. When you're in that trap of negative self-talk and all that, do you have any steps that people can put into practice to say, okay, this is how I'm talking to myself. What can I do to change that?
Wow, that's a good question, Diane. Thank you. Yes. If you are finding that first off, we've got to realize that's what I'm saying to myself, right? Like, what have I been saying to myself? Question yourself. And when you find, oh, that's really negative, what would I change that to? I wouldn't say that to my best friend. Look in the mirror and reframe it. Look in the mirror and say those positive things to yourself. I tell people to write it down on a piece of paper, put it on their mirror, and tell themselves, talk to yourself in the mirror. Kathy, you did a really good job yesterday. That was really good. You know what? You can handle this. You've got this. You've dealt with stress before. It's going to be all right. You're enough. Tell yourself what you need to hear.
So, sometimes, if I get into that really negative thought process for myself, I'll ask a best friend or my daughter or somebody that's really close to me to give me a few affirmations.
Nice.
To actually say something kind to me, or something that I'm good at, or something that I've been successful at, so that it's not just me saying it, but it's somebody else, and it helps.
It does. It helps to hear it, not just think it up here. It helps us literally to hear it.
As we move back into a normal, we have to create a routine. Can you speak into how important a routine is in our everyday lives?
A routine is that helps us know what we're going to do next. That idea that I know what I have to do. I'm getting up. Wednesday, I get up Wednesday morning, I make fudge. That helps my day go along because, today's Wednesday. And if you're like a lot of other people, there is that sort of, you get up in the morning, right, I'm not going to work today, or I'm not doing this. What are we going to do? Let's make a plan. Because a person with a plan and a purpose is a happier person. So we work on that. We create plans for ourselves. Yes, sometimes our plans do get hijacked by the circumstances around us. We notice that our children are happier when they have good, solid routines because they know what to expect. And we as adults still need those routines because we want to know what we're going to expect.
Pastor Kathy, some of the emotions that have been coming out lately have been some anger and things like that, especially when you go to the store, if you see somebody with a mask or without a mask, or, can you give us a little insight into where that might be coming from and how to be able to handle that?
Okay. Anger is a funny emotion. We all deal with it, right? Mm-hmm. We get anxious and anger can pour out, right? And then we're going, where'd that come from? But that anxiousness that's there, because anxiousness and fear are closely related within our brain. Therefore, anger resides there too. One theory of anger emotions are anger is a secondary emotion. And behind that secondary emotion are primary emotions, which are fear, hurt, or frustration. You know what? We're scared. We don't want to get sick. We don't want our loved ones to get sick. And we don't know these other people in a store. And if they get too close, of course, it's like, what are you doing? And we get angry. That's a natural response because we're there to protect ourselves, right? That fight or flight too. And then we get frustrated because people just aren't following the rules. A lot of the stores around here have these arrows and somebody just doesn't follow the arrows, right? We get angry about it. You know what, let's give some grace. And then, sometimes we feel that our personal liberties have actually been removed at times because under a state of emergency, that's what the government does. It is there to protect you. We want to have as many people not get sick as possible because, yeah, this COVID-19 isn't serious for some people, but it is deadly for others. In loving our neighbors, we need to take those health precautions to help them. We don't want to get sick. We don't want our loved ones to get sick. And we still don't want anyone else's loved ones to get sick. So we do need to take some precautions. So when you feel that anger, go, all right. And give the person that it's sort of, really, how can you come in my personal space?
Coming out of this, like towards the end, is there anything from an emotional or mental health standpoint that you see as a positive?
You know what? I think families are connecting.
Mm.
And we haven't been able to go out and see those extended family members that we love. So that is really, we are now recognizing how important our family is. We knew it, we said it, but we didn't always carry through on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we need, as we move forward and we are moving toward the end and being able to meet with family and friends more, we need to live in the moment and just enjoy the celebration of being allowed to be together. Some people are going to come out feeling a little lonelier. And maybe as we move out, it's about finding a plan to make good connections with certain people. Sometimes we get to move to a new community, which was really hard to make new connections and new friends. Have a plan. Have some questions you ask people.
Just, is there anything else that you would like to say to us or to our viewers about emotional and mental health?
If you are struggling, go get help. There should be no stigma on this. If you have diabetes, nobody would ever talk to you about going to your doctor and talking about what you need to do. This beautiful little organ in your head is an organ, just like any other organ. Sometimes it malfunctioned. It's not running exactly the way it was designed to run, and we struggle with emotional issues. It is as physical as every other ailment our body can throw at us. So please, go get help.
I want to encourage our viewers. I mean, you've got 3 pastors here in 3 different parts of the world. Mm-hmm. Maybe Pastor Diane, you can put our contact information under our pictures. If you're out there and you're struggling, call us. Yep. If we can't help, sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. But we know resources within our communities and within our provinces and within our areas that we can connect you with, or we may know somebody who is in your area. If you're struggling with depression or anxiety or suicidal thoughts or any of those kinds of things, please reach out to us and we will try to connect you with other professionals in our area or beyond. So thank you so much, Pastor Kathy, for coming on and sharing with us today. We are truly blessed. I do want you to watch on Friday because we're going to be doing some art therapy that's going to follow along with this particular mindfulness and mental health. So be watching for Friday's art therapy. But from Slave Lake, Alberta, I am Pastor Peggy Yetman.
I'm Pastor Kathy Jeffries from the Head of Millstream in New Brunswick.
And I'm Pastor Diane from Norfolk Wesleyan. We will see you tomorrow for Tadpole Thursday. Lots of hope, yay! Until then, be safe.
Be healthy.
Be the church.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Pastor Diane, and for the record, she deserved to be tied to the telephone pole.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay. And for the record, I edit this.
Oh, shoot.